All right, let's get it on, baby. Come on over here, Samir. Welcome to The Sweat, everybody. Presented by Paramount Plus. Watch local NFL on CBS games live with Paramount Plus. So for everyone here in the Boston area, that means yesterday on Paramount Plus, you could have watched the Patriots get absolutely smoked by the Dolphins. So we got a lot coming up on this show. We'll talk some baseball. We'll talk PGA Tour because it's already back. But the NFL's fall debut was a thing of beauty. There was kicker drama like left and right. The Chiefs and Tyreek Hill really don't seem to miss each other. Aaron Rodgers really misses Devonta Adams, and a disastrous night for Dak and the Cowboys. But, however, Samir, let's turn our attention to the big screen, baby. We got some massive fantasy performances to address. Saquon Barkley, looking like his old self, put up a silly 164 rushing yards on just 18 carries. The Packers decided to not cover Justin Jefferson, who ended up with the most points on the slate, and it went over the Packers. And then Patty Mayonnaise completing 77% of his passes, throwing for 360 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now it's time to overreact. Two of my favorites, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich, the kings of cool, calm, and collected. So big news of the night here, guys. The Cowboys season, it's over already. Dak Prescott breaking his thumb, so he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Every other NFC East team started with a victory. What chance are you giving Dallas to overcome the loss of their franchise quarterback for what could be like 2 months here and actually make the postseason, Jeff?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you spin this to have like a rosy take here. Let's start with the positive. Dallas's defense did hold like Tom Brady and the Bucs to 1 touchdown. I mean, like their defense is legit. It's very good. It's probably going to keep them in games, to be honest. So I get that why people are the Cowboys on offense were terrible with Dak Prescott. How much worse can this get? It can actually get worse. So, their O-line didn't hold up too bad, but like running the ball wasn't that effective. They're probably just going to try and give the ball to Zeke Elliott a million times a game, which, it's really not going to work because his efficiency is down. They didn't use Tony Pollard in any way. I just think with the biggest thing with the Cowboys is, they have a team in the Eagles who look very legit. How are they going to overcome this without Dak Prescott? Yeah. They're not. I mean, they're not. So they're probably going to be, maybe their defense can keep them in the fight for a wild card spot for like half the season. That's potential outcome. But man, they got a tough test against Joe Burrow and the Bengals next week, who, Joe Burrow obviously going to be upset after turning the ball over like a million times. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys. Yeah. I won't say that they're done. But
no, they're done.
Okay, they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles at minus 140, I think, are good value. So if I think the Eagles at minus 140 are good value, they're probably done.
Okay, so Pierce, the offense didn't look great like when he was in the game even before the injury, but how do you think Dallas can stay afloat here and remain in striking distance of first place in that division until a healthy Prescott returns?
They can't. They have zero chance. They're
Good.
done. They're toast.
Love
Thanks for
it.
participating, Dallas. We'll see you next year. That's not an overreaction. Most people probably feel the same way. They had issues before the Dak injury. Those issues are just going to be compounded. And Jeff makes a decent point about, well, their defense kept them in the game. And they did. They kept points off the board. But, a play goes this way or that way, or if Tampa is a little less rusty, that game is an absolute blowout. Tampa was able to move the ball. They just didn't get a lot of points on the board. Kudos to Dallas for doing that. But I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that. We also are expecting some turnover regression from Dallas. Last year, they forced teams to commit turnovers better than any other team. There's just no way they can do that again. They've got line issues. They've got wide receiver issues. They've now got quarterback issues. Ezekiel Elliott's not getting any younger. You got a backup quarterback playing. Better luck next year. We'll see you in 2023.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff, should they go out and try to sign somebody? Should they try to like maybe pull Ryan Fitzpatrick out of retirement? Cam Newton's there. You think they're going to just ride with Cooper Rush? Sign Jimmy G?
Cooper Kupp might be an improvement at quarterback. I mean, he can do anything. What is Ryan Fitzpatrick? What is Cam Newton going to do for this team? Yeah, I mean, what a waste of money. I'm sure that's what they will do, because that's what NFL teams tend to do. They tend to just go out and overreact and sign these veterans who are good, like in the Carter administration. But no, like I don't think that they should do that. They should just ride with what they have.
All right, man.
Rush knows the playbook. They have a decent defense, and that's what they should do. Will they do that? Who knows? I mean, Dak. It really depends. If Dak's like it's like 8 to 10 weeks, I think they probably will explore that option. It's also Jerry Jones, who just does whatever he wants anyways. So.
Yeah, it's true. So Pierce, Cowboys sitting in second to win the NFC East at plus 350. But like Jeff mentioned, the Eagles' odds to win the division are already down to minus 140 here. Philly and A.J. Brown put up some big numbers against Detroit. And the Chiefs and Mahomes, they're going to keep doing Chiefs and Mahomes things without Tyreek Hill. Which team's offensive performance impressed you the most yesterday?
Yeah, the Chiefs it didn't really impress me what the Chiefs did. I was expecting it. All these other guys are enamored by the flashy new teams in the AFC West. Not me. I've been sticking with the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill leaving town. I said it before. This might actually be good for that offense. It's going to return Andy Reid to his West Coast roots, allow them to diversify, spread the ball around the field, and we saw exactly that. Mahomes was able to pass to every different player. And if you think about it from a scheming perspective, before, if you wanted to deal with the Chiefs, you just would bracket coverage Tyreek Hill. You'd double team him and let somebody else beat you. There's no easy way of doing that anymore. Now you got to figure out, all right, well, how is Mahomes going to attack us week by week? And the Cardinals found out firsthand, you really can't stop him. The first 3 drives, they just walk down the field. The next drive, 19-yard completed pass to Juju, he fumbles. They get the ball back with 40 seconds left. They go 60 yards or whatever and kick a field goal. It's just unbelievable. Basically a perfect half from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Look, the Eagles look great as well, but until things change, it's the Chiefs on top.
Okay, a lot of great offensive performances. Speaking team-wise here, Jeff, which one stood out to you the most? Which one did you like the most?
I mean, look, what Pierce said is right about the Chiefs, but I don't think that people quite realize yet what an abject disaster the Arizona Cardinals are going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, their secondary, and I tweeted this out, it's terrible. They're terrible against slot receivers, and it's just a terrible matchup for them to begin with. And then their offense was terrible, so the Chiefs just had the ball the whole time. It was impressive, and you expect Andy One and Reid in week 1 to do that. But for me, it's the Eagles. The Eagles had 4 different running backs just running the ball effectively the whole game. And their defense didn't really do them any favors. Their offense was absolutely carrying the load for them. When they needed a yard late in the game, Jalen Hurts got a yard. When they got in the red zone, Jalen Hurts got a touchdown. When they needed a big play, they just threw the ball to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts had a connection rate of over 75%. And we're not talking dink and dunk here. We're talking downfield. This is a problem. The Eagles haven't even bothered getting the other guys involved. Devonta Smith, first-round draft pick. When this starts clicking, I mean, the Eagles are going to be a really, really hard team to stop if their defense gets it together. So I think the Eagles are actually the more impressive team. I expected them to be good, but I didn't expect this levels of efficiency, even against Detroit. So for me, that was the impressive spot. Jalen Hurts just did a lot of the heavy lifting. There's still room for improvement.
Best receiver since Terrell Owens there in Philadelphia. I don't think there's any question about it. And Brown also put up the most receiving yards by a non-rookie Eagle in his debut. Huge gains from Justin Jefferson as well. Jamar Chase ended up closing things out strong. Michael Pittman, multi-score games from Michael Thomas there. Rookie Juhan Dotson and others. A ton of games, good games too from running backs, including Barkley, Swift, Fournette. Which individual performance sits atop your week 1 list, Jeff?
I mean, we could talk about, there's any number of players we could talk about here. Amon-Ra St. Brown continuing his just pillaging of targets on the Detroit Lions squad and earning targets every week again. But I'm going to go with Jamar Chase here. If you watch that Pittsburgh Steelers Cincinnati Bengal game, when T. Higgins went out, it was the Jamar Chase show. And Pittsburgh had 3 defenders on him down midfield. They could not stop him. They could not stop Jamar Chase. The Bengals should have won that game, and Jamar Chase essentially won that game for him. He should have had an extra touchdown, but the Bengals decided not to challenge what seemed like it was a pretty obvious touchdown in the 3rd quarter. And then he scored again in the 4th quarter, which should have won the game anyways. And when Pittsburgh knew the ball was going to him, Jamar Chase is unstoppable. If T. Higgins is out for any amount of time, he's going to absolutely break this league, in my opinion. Justin Jefferson, we knew he was going to be good. He was great. I'm not talking him down. Michael Pittman was impressive, but how much are the Colts actually going to be leaning on him every game? We'll see. I think their defense will probably get better. Michael Thompson's return was good, but it's Jamar Chase, man. If he keeps getting this kind of target share, which is elevated from last year, he is going to smash the league here.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive game with, like I said, a good Steelers secondary all over him. He still essentially won the game for the Bengals, which they actually ended up losing.
Yeah, his rookie season was no fluke. Pierce, which individual performance was your favorite yesterday?
all three of those top receivers definitely had monster days, Brown, Jefferson, and Chase. But let's throw some asterisks out there. Jeff wants to talk about how bad the Cardinals secondary is. You know who also has a really bad defense? The Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Yes, A.J. Brown looked great, but we do need to see a little bit more. It's awesome. He did exactly what he's supposed to do, but it was a soft matchup. Justin Jefferson, great game, playing the Green Bay Packers. The only problem? For whatever reason, Jair Alexander didn't guard him. And so all of those stats, which were monster numbers, were all compiled against any other cornerback not named Jair Alexander. And then Chase, he benefits from T. Higgins not being on the field. And then again, the Steelers last season, the worst secondary in football, it seems that they haven't improved anything at all. In that fourth quarter, everyone in the stadium knew the ball was going to Chase. The only person stopping Chase was the officials, it seemed like, calling plays one way or the other, keeping touchdowns off the board. Those are the three guys. And then, Michael Thomas. Who was talking about Michael Thomas? Who complained about Michael Thomas being ranked in the preseason top 10? Oh, I don't know. Looks pretty good to me. I think it's going to be a very big season for the Gunslinger. And I would be worried if I'm an Alvin Kamara guy. It does not look like Winston's going to be checking down. He doesn't have a noodle arm like Drew Brees. They're pushing the ball upfield to Olave. They're pushing the ball upfield to Michael Thomas. The receivers are going to have a big year. I would be really concerned for Alvin Kamara.
How about Saquon Barkley? Those abs. Abs of steel.
Yeah, he looks good. The quad father, dude. The quad father is back. Great little coaching debut there for Ryan Daboll as well. We could get to some of the disappointing teams in Week 1 because one of them, 100%, the Titans in the AFC South. AFC South disappointing in itself, but yeah, the Bengals fall due to some kicking issues, nearly overcoming 5 turnovers from Joe Burrow. The Colts tie with the Texans. Which kind of feels like a loss, right? 49ers, ooh, Jeff, losing to the Bears. They essentially played like a pool. And, the Titans fall at home. And not to mention America's team. The Jacksonville Jaguars failed to hang on in Washington.
Yeah.
So I think the most impressive part of that was AFC South going 0-2-2 with 2 teams playing each other. Which loss, though, concerns you the most, Pierce?
That was a great opportunity for the Jags to really push forward. I
Right?
told you the AFC South was going to be garbage and they have a chance, and then they lose
Yeah.
to a very beatable Commanders
Yes,
team.
agreed.
But that's like the 30-second storyline on the board. The Bengals lost. That's tough. It wasn't really kicking issues. I mean, one was a block kick. That's not necessarily the kicker's fault. And then the other was a bad snap. So, again, that's on the line again. The turnovers, that's kind of a big deal. 5 turnovers, and they still almost won that game. But actually, the bigger disappointment might be the Steelers with their Pyrrhic victory. You lose J.J. Watt, you lose Najee Harris. That's going to pretty much destroy that team. And the worst thing was they won the game. And that means Mitch Trubisky is going to continue to be the quarterback. I was completely wrong on Mitch. Mitch does not look good. That offense looked terrible. You get 5 turnovers, your defense plays great, and you barely win the game. That's not good. This Steelers team is going to have some serious issues moving forward. San Francisco, you can make excuses about the rain. Chicago's not making excuses about the rain. Trey Lance did not look good. Makes you think. San Francisco gets to watch Trey Lance practice every day, and they chose to keep Jimmy G around. Jimmy G gets to watch Trey Lance practice every day, and he chose to stick around. You know who doesn't get to watch Trey Lance practice every day? Superfan Jeff Ulrich. That's who. Trey Lance, buckle up.
He keeps this up here, Ulrich. It's going to be handsome Jimmy G under center.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'll tell you one thing for sure. I'm not worried about the 49ers. That game was played. Ridiculous situation that the 49ers defense took about 1 million penalties in the second half. I mean, they blew the game. Like, team-wise, it's not great. I don't know. Yeah, it just felt like they were overconfident once they got up. And I'm not suggesting that Trey Lance played great. Justin Fields didn't play great either. He just made a couple big plays. The 49ers couldn't do anything. They just seemed to just sit there and do nothing for the second half. Not worried about it. I'm really not. Not really worried about the Bengals either. I think, as Pierce mentioned, the fact you can turn the ball over 5 times against a division rival, and basically you still should have won the game. Like, you were at a point where in the game where you were like 99% to win the game. You just need an extra point. So, I mean, like, the Bengals will be fine, I think. The team that just, like, was the biggest disappointment was the Indianapolis Colts. It's a team that was minus 130 to win their division. It's a team a lot of sharp people that I know were like, oh, yeah, this team's good. This is like, we got to pencil this team in for, like, the AFC Conference champion. This could be the beginnings of an abject disaster for Indianapolis. And maybe Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman keep them just afloat and they scratch out the division win. But like Matt Ryan is not going to save this team. Matt Ryan couldn't move the ball mid-game against the Houston Texans. Like the Houston Texans were shutting down, not completely shutting down, but like just limiting Jonathan Taylor to not like destroying them. And if teams can do that and just make Matt Ryan beat them, like they're not going to win that many games. So I think the Indianapolis Colts are, again, you should be worried here. You shouldn't be that worried because it's just like the Jags chasing them and the Titans who couldn't finish off the Giants. But I would actually be looking to maybe even take a slice of like the Titans, because the Titans, they're going to have some regression and like maybe they'll lose some of these close games that they were winning, but I just have no confidence in the Colts. I don't think this team is going to be anywhere near as good as people think. And if they keep racking up problems on defense, like injuries, with Shaq Leonard out again, they're going to struggle, I think.
Was Texans coach Lovie Smith right in playing for the tie versus the Colts, Jeff?
In that situation, I mean, I don't know. I mean, probably not. Like, the Texans still aren't good enough to do anything, so just play for the win. But where he did screw up was not giving Dameon Pierce some overtime carries to try and salt away the win. I mean, they had multiple chances where they could have put him out instead of Rex Burkhead. Not sure what you're doing there exactly. Why do you draft this guy if you're not going to use him in clutch situations? As far as playing for the tie goes, I actually don't really mind it. I mean, the Texans probably weren't going to convert there, but I don't know. I mean, I know that everyone on Twitter will be like, you got to play for the win. That's how it goes. But was Davis Mills really going to convert there? Probably not.
And real quick, Pierce, how much wiggle room does Trey Lance have for bad games right now with Jimmy G sitting right behind him?
In that division, I would say about a week or two. There's rumblings in San Francisco. They don't love him that as much as the people in DFS love him. Let's just say that.
All right, cool. All right, well, another big storyline. Here we go, guys. Rookie Cade York kicked a go-ahead 58-yard field goal with 8 seconds left. I think he had 4 field goals total. This was a 4th-round pick for the Browns. Kareem Hunt scored twice. Cleveland spoils Baker Mayfield's bid for vengeance with a 26-24 victory over the Panthers. All right, was this more about like what the Browns did or what Baker and Carolina did not do, Jeff?
I mean, I think it's actually more about what the Browns did. I mean, the Browns, I think people are just discounting this team a little bit too much. I mean, there is still a lot of talent on that team. Like, they've got some really solid high draft picks on the corners. They've got, got Myles Garrett in the middle. Like, Nick Chubb is, if you look at just like pure guys who are just rushing the ball, he's top 5. Like, he's, in terms of I have him ranked there as like a just top 5 rushing the ball. Talk about other factors of the RB. Maybe it doesn't factor in the pass game, but like when you have a rusher that's that efficient and you have a defense that can make plays, like you're going to be in games. And I think that's what people just kind of just forgot about the Browns. Like, they don't need that much from the quarterback position. We have seen teams with bad quarterbacks be winning teams. And like the Browns could be headed in that direction. Kevin Stefanski's still a good coach. The Panthers are just, they're not going to be that good. Like, I mean, they're offensively under Matt Rule. They've really never been that efficient anyways. And they're still going up against a talented squad. I think people are just overlooking them, overrating the Panthers a little bit, but really just underrating the Browns.
Okay.
So I look at this win. It's more of what the Browns did. Nick Chubb going there with that absolutely insane hype video, dominating on the ground, putting the Browns in position so that they could give all the touchdowns again to Kareem Hunt for my fantasy team. I won't get into that, but no, it's about the Browns and what they did and just about the team that I think, again, people just underrating from a talent perspective.
Pierce, the Browns rushed for 217 yards. The offense held the ball for 38 minutes. This is the formula that team needs to win games until Deshaun Watson comes back.
Well, yeah, if the formula is to play with Panthers every single week, then sure. No one else. The Panthers have a terrible rush defense. Let's not get too excited about Nick Chubb and Hunt. I think they're going to be fine, but this was a soft matchup. And you had an offense on the other side that just couldn't do anything, and so the Browns were able to just sit on the ball. I've seen enough of the Rule and McAdoo era after one game to know this team's not going anywhere. Why you would come out and game plan for pass when that is one of the strengths of the Browns and not necessarily a strength of the Panthers, especially when you've got CMC right there and you're not giving him the ball. Meanwhile, you just let Baker Mayfield go out there and just look miserable in the first half. He completes a 50-yard pass to Ian Thomas, which helps them get a touchdown and stay in the game. And then later, he hits a blown coverage pass to Robbie Anderson, and that gets them back in the game. Other than that, Baker Mayfield, yeah, it was a gutsy performance. But if you need a gutsy performance against a Jacoby Brissett-led Browns team, you are in absolute trouble. Sure, there was a couple blown calls by the refs on the last drive, but it shouldn't have come down to this. Panthers have enough talent to win these games, but Baker just did not work well in that system. It's a disaster. See you next year, Panthers.
Okay, so 2 of the next 3 games of the Browns against the Jets and the Falcons. So a 3-1 start, not out of the question for a Jacoby Brissett-led Browns team. Guys, that's all the time we have for this edition of NFL Hangover. So we're going to have you guys back in just a moment to look at some showdown picks and also some bets for tonight. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle, Monday Night Football. Yesterday, though, was a historic day for us here at DraftKings. Why is that? We had our first Rainmakers contest, baby. Check out this lineup in the 300K elite tier. Hurts, Swift, Jefferson, Kelsey, Brown, 100 grand to this Rainmakers squad. Saturday also saw the new Momentum Pack drop, which is great for new players to join in season. So here's Matt Kalish and Chris Costa with what it means for players on the franchise score.
If you have your calendar out, a big date is September 13th at 10 a.m. This is the Tuesday after week 1 of football, and there's a bunch of stuff happening then. First, elevate to the extent there's still a couple of like rare packs and legendary packs that are out there in the marketplace. Those are going to come off the site on September 13th at 10 a.m. Like, if there's any left unsold, those are kind of coming off the site. Momentum will be the set. Okay, so that's the first big thing. And there'll be a couple airdrops that are related to, this announcement today. One people already know about, which is that same date and time, September 13th, 10 a.m. We're taking a very big franchise score snapshot. We're airdropping, $1 million of momentum packs. If you have a top 25,000 franchise score, you're getting something. It could be as good as a Rainmaker tier pack from Momentum, all the way down to like single card core promo packs as well. So big airdrop snapshot coming on the 13th. And there's a couple more as well that, during this announcement around Momentum that we're also going to be announcing for the first time.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. So just to reiterate, on September 13th, the top 25 members of the franchise score leaderboard are going to participate in an airdrop that includes over $1 million in packs. Is that correct, Kalish?
Yeah, top 25,000.
25,000. I was going to say that's a lot of packs to 25 people. So the top 25,000. So if you're in the top 25,000 of the franchise score leaderboard, you are going to participate in an airdrop that includes $1 million in packs given away.
Correct.
Wow. Crazy.
Baseball is not dead. Baseball is still being played. We had some big storylines coming in over the weekend, like Albert Pujols, now 3 taters away from 700, 4th all-time now on MLB's home run list. The Dodgers have clinched the season's first playoff berth, and now teams like the Braves are on track to secure their own postseason spot, despite being walked out by the Mariners, who are battling it out for a wild card position. Let's go ahead and look ahead to tonight and cover the DFS bases with RotoWire's Eric Halterman. First base, you know the drill, brother. Give me your DFS pitcher, your top one.
Yeah, just me today. I don't know if I should talk extra slowly or argue with myself.
Yeah,
I'll give
we
you
can do that.
I'll give you a 1.25 answers here because I originally wanted to go with Alex Cobb at 8,000. I think he's a guy who's been much better than his surface stats for much of the year. Problem is, he's pitching against Spencer Strider, so I don't think he's going to get a win, and I don't want to recommend somebody who I really think isn't going to have much of a chance at all to win. You just don't beat Spencer Strider. So he's the guy I'm going with for real at just over 10,000. His numbers are just silly. A 2.69 ERA on the season, and that's actually an underperformance according to some of his ERA estimators. His FIP is all the way down at 183, which actually says he could be doing, over about 2/3 of a run better than his 2.69 ERA. More than that, even over 3/4. And that's because his strikeout rate, 38.1%, is the third highest all time among pitchers with at least 120 innings pitched. Trails only Garrett Cole from 2019 and Chris Sale from 2018. And to round out that top five is Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson. So some pretty excellent company there. And he should be slowing down given that he moved from relief early in the year, but he's not. He's averaging over 10 strikeouts across his last 4 starts. I can't look any other way. I'm sure a lot of people will be on Strider, but I don't want to miss out on the potential 40-pointer he could drop here.
All right, cool. Let's talk DFS hitter here as we hit on second base. Looks like there's going to be multiple dudes who are going to cost you at least $6,000, but I'm not quite sure how much money you're planning on spending here.
Yeah, if I'm going Strider, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get much in that kind of price range, but I do like Jonathan India a lot at just 4,000, who I feel like easily could be at least 500 to 1,000 more than that. It's been an injury-filled second season for India, who really looked excellent last year, 21 homers and a 120 WRC plus. This year, he's only played in 82 games, only homered 10 times. That WRC plus has dropped to 103, but he's been much better since the break. And the first half for Jonathan India, just a 73 WRC plus, 130 since the All-Star break. So it seems like he's healthier and back to being the guy we saw in his rookie season last year. Top it off with the fact that he gets a great home park, which he'll probably bat first or second in against Bryce Wilson, who has an ERA that starts with a 6, a strikeout rate under 15%. I think it's a great deal on a guy who easily could be closer to 5,000, if not for his overall numbers being brought down by a poor first half.
Okay, cool. So let's save the people some money then, a DFS value as we touch third base now.
Yeah, let's save as much as we possibly can. Josh Young for the minimum price of 2,000. Third baseman for the Rangers, just a few games into his major league career here. 3 games in, he struck out 6 times, which isn't great, but he also has 3 hits, a homer, and a steal. Young was a very highly ranked prospect. RotoWire's James Anderson has him as the 13th best fantasy prospect right now. Above average hit tool and plus power is basically everything you want to see. And even though he's not necessarily the fully realized version of himself yet, I think that version is easily going to sit in the 4,000s if he becomes the guy he's supposed to be. So you're getting him essentially half off the peak version. He's had pretty bad injury luck the last 2 springs. He could have been up even early last year, but he had foot surgery last spring training, shoulder surgery this spring training. So it's not the full version of Josh Young just yet, but again, $2,000 is far cheaper than he's going to end up. He'll get the platoon advantage here against Braxton Garrett, who's actually having a pretty good season, but it's his first start back from an oblique injury. So I like Young even more there.
All right, let's head home. Money line, or run total bet that you like over on the DK Sportsbook, Eric. Talk to me, dude.
Yeah, if you can get in it quick, the first half of the doubleheader between the Marlins and the Rangers, Trevor Rogers, only minus 125 on the Marlins. I think Rogers is looking like himself. But for the late slate, I like the Diamondbacks plus 180 versus the Dodgers. And normally I give you numbers reasons for this, but today the reason is that the Dodgers clinched and are wearing, what are they, fake ab shirts? I don't know what they were posting all over Twitter yesterday. They seem to be having a good time. They're all sitting around shirtless and doing whatever you do after you clinch playoff spots. And I don't think that whatever you do there is the most conducive to winning a baseball game the next day. So I'll take Dodgers at plus 180 almost regardless of who's on the mound for either team.
All right, dude, extra bases. Which player prop do you like on the DK Sportsbook tonight? Anything stand out to you?
Let's just go back to where I started this one. Spencer Strider. He's just silly. Take his over on his strikeouts almost wherever it is. I believe it's 7.5. Again, the guy's been averaging double digits over his last 4 starts. I'll take his over basically every time.
All right, Eric, love you, mean it, man. It's great to have you here. We'll return to the NFL for some, come on over for some showdown picks coming up. But first, before going to Paris on her floating palace of a private jet, Jessie Cofield was kind enough to sit down with Rockies pitcher Austin Gomber to see what his team can look forward to despite struggling right now as they head down the home stretch here.
And joining me now, I am here with Rockies pitcher Austin Gomber. Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just get right into it. It's been like a tough year for your team, obviously, when it comes to wins and losses, but you're on pace to pitch more innings this season than any other in your career. So, what kind of personal victories have you had this year?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's obviously been less than ideal for year for, me personally and obviously our team. We had, higher expectations of ourselves than what we have done so far. But I think the biggest thing about just throwing more innings for me and what I would consider a win is just staying healthy. I haven't spent any time so far this year on the disabled list. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing is, just being available. So that's something that I worked for in the off season and I wanted to accomplish. And so far this year I've been able to do that. So, just continue to try to strive in that direction.
So you began the season as a starter. Recently, it's been more work out of the bullpen. Is starting where you ultimately want to be, and what's the difference in preparation for you?
Yeah, I mean, starting is where I see myself, going forward at some point. The difference would just be, the probably mentally of just having to be ready to pitch every day, as opposed to, obviously if you're starting, you're only throwing once a week, once every 5-6 days. As a reliever, obviously, you're pretty much ready to go every day. You're going to have some days, obviously, if you've thrown a lot of innings the night before or something where you're down. But just coming to the field every day ready to, contribute and play is probably the biggest difference between the two, I'd say.
So last year, you were part of the trade that sent Nolan Arenado to St. Louis. Can you reflect on that trade that sent you from the Cardinals to the Rockies?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of came out of, for me, nowhere. Obviously, being on the other side of it, you hear the rumors when I was with the Cardinals that, they're obviously trying to make a move and trying to add somebody like Nolan, but you never know that you're going to be a part of it until, that day comes. And unfortunately, it just kind of came, right before spring training last year, which just kind of logistically made it a little bit more difficult than if it would have happened, middle of the off season in December. You'd have a little bit more planning time. We were kind of me and my family were kind of planned on going to Florida for spring training, and then, 5 days before spring training, we're going to Arizona. So that was a little bit different, and just figuring all that stuff out. But the organization over here has been great since I got here. We love the city. Me and my wife do. My kids like it. They're great with families over here. So, so far it's been good for us.
All right, check this out. So last night's showdown contest, Sunday night showdown, $250,000 to first place. That would go to T-Jet 22. Leonard Fournette in the captain's spot. Whoa, 127 rushing yards, 28 points in the captain's spot. Julio Jones, the Buccaneers defense, Ryan Suckup. I mean, it's not ever really a good thing, Jeff Ulrich, when the kicker has the fire emoji, but no. That's kind of just how last night's game played out, isn't it?
It really is. It again, when you're playing showdown lineups, you do want to play for a certain narrative, and
yep.
Obviously the winners last week played for a really, really, we'll just call it sucky performance from the Dallas Cowboys offense, and obviously. They played. The defense would limit the Brady a little bit at least, and that's exactly what happened. Some decent performances yardage wise from Brady and his receivers, but not much scoring. And then, Suckup just coming through in the clutch. When you can play a kicker in showdown, you just got to do it, Emerson. I mean, come on.
Yeah, 100%. So then that takes me to tonight. We got Monday Night Football here. Your captain for Russell Wilson and the Broncos, Russ heading back to Seattle to face the Seahawks, who have very low expectations this year. And I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday on our Sunday edition of The Sweat. Your captain for tonight, I believe, is could be one of his targets?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, there's a couple different ways you can play this game. I'm not expecting a ton of points from this game either. I mean, you have two teams that trended well into the unders last year, but I do think, like, offensively, the Broncos' skill players have a lot of upside here in this matchup, too. Like, Courtland Sutton is the guy I talked about yesterday. He's got a good matchup on the outside. And much like A.J. Brown, like, I'm just not sure if people understand how much, like, targeting he could get in matchups like this, where there's a clear advantage. You've got a quarterback in Russell Wilson. It's just a great deep ball passer anyways. You know, I'm not suggesting that Sutton goes for like an 80-yard touchdown, but just the targeting. Like if it's there off the top, I mean, I think Sutton could easily push well past his prop totals and stuff like that. And at 14-1 in a lower scoring game, if he does find the end zone and ends up like leading the team in targeting, it's a good chance he's going to be one of the highest scores there. So I like Courtland Sutton, but I think Javonte Williams is in play as well. Those are the two guys on the Broncos I would definitely feel more comfortable with than just going up to Russell Wilson. I'm just not sure if the pass attempts are going to be there for Russ. I mean, he doesn't rush the ball as much as he used to. So I think Javonte Williams, Courtland Sutton, those are the two captains I'd really be pushing for, at least on the Denver side.
Yeah, and there's those reports, I believe you mentioned yesterday, too, of Sutton and also Russell Wilson becoming good friends in preseason. And that kind of reminds me about that breakout year in 2018 with Tyler Lockett. Like, if you become Russ's favorite pass catcher, it can result in all pro votes.
Devonta Williams, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, all these guys are going to lunch. They're reading books together. They're going for like late night walk. I don't know what they're doing, but they're all buddies, you know. And Courtland Sutton, again, the news from camp, we just kind of got to trust it at this point because we haven't seen this offense. Again, that's what makes this game really interesting to me. Not necessarily we're going to see a ton of points, but like, what is this Denver Broncos offense going to look like? A lot of variables could happen. It could be a little bit sloppy to begin with, or maybe we see something more like the Eagles where these new players and like Wilson and Sutton, they just get off to a hot start against, you know, what I think is going to be a weaker team.
Yeah, Jeff, so if you got Sutton in the captain spot, it makes all the sense in the world to stack him with his new favorite football player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like if you're playing Sutton in the captain spot, I mean, you think you pretty much have to play Russ there. I mean, you could certainly, you know, if you were going to leave Russ out, then, you know, you'd have to be thinking about coming back with some Seattle passing and thinking like, well, they're going to be, you know, playing a bunch of garbage time maybe late in the game. But Russell Wilson is definitely the natural player to stack with Courtland Sutton. It's an expensive stack, but putting Sutton also in the captain spot, that's why I kind of like it, because it does save you that money to take a couple more studs on the other side of the ball. I mean, we haven't talked about Seattle much, but, you know, targeting like Tyler Lockett at 10-5, not something I necessarily hate. I'm not super bullish on him, but just from a price perspective, if there's one player like from Seattle who kind of showed towards the end of the year that he's still very capable of, you know, going deep, breaking out on a few targets or just a couple deep passes, it's Tyler Lockett. He put together some nice games towards the end of the year. And I think at 10-5, he'll probably be a popular target, but again, if you're playing for the Broncos side in your captain spot, you've got to think like the pass catchers for Seattle might have some extra opportunities late in the game. So coming back with Lockett's something I like to do there for sure.
Okay, what are we doing then for value? Any kind of like fourth string tight end really stands out to you? It's unfortunate Pierce didn't read the email and realize he was in this segment because this is his time to shine.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, you know, like a lot of the early, well, maybe not like all of them, but maybe unlike last night actually, where there really wasn't any like value that was to be had. I think this game is just like we have such an ugly team in the Seahawks just from an offensive perspective and what they're going to do. You know, a guy like Travis Homer at 2,100. I mean, if he gets like a couple carries and a couple passing targets, I mean, it's feasible. Like the Denver Broncos shut down Rashad Penny and Homer ends up with like 8 points and is like one of the leaders in terms of offensive output for Seattle. I think that's a very like likely scenario. So there's deep value there with a guy like Travis Homer. Dwayne Eskridge is down there at 1,500. He's essentially the wide receiver 3. It's the player that the team drafted last year pretty high up. I mean, he's going to be out there. Again, like all it takes is one deep ball. Maybe he gets like a 30-yard catch and maybe he ends up with more yardage than DK Metcalf. Like these Seattle players down here, extremely playable. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, like, you know, a guy like KJ Hamler at 6,600, again, he's questionable. I don't think that he's necessarily been ruled out or in yet, but I you know, he was practicing, kind of expect him to go out there. But even if he's not, I mean, you could start looking towards like the Denver backups as well and maybe taking a shot. One thing we know about Russell Wilson, just in general, is that obviously like he likes to take deep shots, and he's pretty good at doing it. So, a guy like, Montreal Washington could be out there for a snap or two, and maybe just catching one deep ball, and that's all you need. So there's definitely ways in a game like this, which is projected to not maybe like where the studs, we have a low total. Maybe the studs won't be, not all of them are going to be going off. I definitely think it's going to be that type of game. There's going to be a lot of bust performances. I don't see both Seattle wide receivers going off. These guys down here, very playable. Eskridge, Homer, on the other side of Hamler's in there. KJ Hamler's in there. I don't mind him. And then you can look, if Hamler's out, I mean, I would take a shot at one of these like sub 500 guys on the Broncos too. I wouldn't be afraid of that.
All right, what about a player prop here? I know you've already mentioned kind of Tyler Lockett. What about like over 50.5 receiving yards for him? Because Smith's last start, of course, it was against the Jags, attempted 24 passes, 13 went his way. I mean, he has 13% target share when Smith starts.
Yeah, it's not great. And realistically, taking a shot on Lockett in DFS and big fields, it's just different than betting his player prop. Like, I would not go over on either of the wide receivers.
Okay.
For the Seattle Seahawks. Like, it's just, I mean, DK Metcalf didn't go over like 60 receiving yards his last 6 games of last year. That was with Russell Wilson too. Maybe Gino Smith and him get off to a better start or something, but the Broncos have pretty good shutdown corners. If I was going to go over on one, it would be Lockett. I think that the slot matchup's a lot better for him.
Yes.
It's something they could take advantage of, but that's not really where I would want to go. I think if I'm going under on anything, or if I'm going to bet any player props on Seattle, I would be looking to take unders, like under on Geno Smith pass attempts. It's set at 30.5 right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'd be absolutely fine with that. Denver was, bottom 10 in terms of like pass attempts against. So they're very good at just like not really developing into pass happy games there. Geno Smith averaged about 27 pass attempts in his 3 starts from last season. Even if the Seahawks are behind, they're going to try and run the ball a little bit. So Geno Smith's pass attempts under 30.5, that's something to look at. And then the other side, Javonte Williams, like that's a player I wouldn't mind going over on. I think in the receiving totals, his receiving yardage is only set at 16.5. Javonte Williams was pretty involved in the pass game. He had multiple targets like last 7 games of the year last year. Javonte Williams, 16.5. I like going over there. I think he'll be more effective in the screen game with Russell Wilson on the field too.
Yeah, okay, so then that takes us to our favorite game bet discussion. Broncos, 6.5-point favorites on the road. 43.5 is the total here. What do you think the play is? Interesting you mentioned Williams because it's one of the things where the defense contains Seattle, right? And they can get an early lead. I think once they do, I'd expect a heavy running game coming from Williams and Gordon.
And that's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot of outcomes here with Denver. We have a new head coach. We have a new quarterback. We're not really sure what's going to happen. This could take a couple weeks to gel. Like, we could see the Broncos come out cold. We could see the Broncos be a really heavy rush team.
Yep.
The Seattle Seahawks defensive front isn't good. I mean, that's probably the weakest part of their defense. I know I talked about Cortland Sutton, but like, there's a chance Javonte Williams gets off to a hot start here. We just see a ton of Denver running the ball. Seattle doesn't do anything. I like the under. That's my game bet here. It's
nice.
43.5. I think there's enough scenarios here where we've got to be liking the under. This total, I think, it could actually be a lot lower. I mean, you look at a game like Chicago, San Francisco, we had 2 kind of like youngish quarterbacks who still had like a 40.5 game total. This is 3 points higher, and we've got Geno Smith on the other side of the ball. I think this one's actually just being propped up by Russell Wilson kind of and just his marquee kind of name. So I think this could actually be lower if that was taken, that if you take that out of account. So 43.5, give me the under here. I don't really want to bet the spread. Denver is just a very, very publicly bet team right now, and I don't really want to bet against Russell Wilson. So if I was going to take a side, I'd probably just bet on Denver because, hey, let's ride. It's 2022. But give me the under here. That's my real game bet here, Emerson. I like this one to just be a lot of rushes. I think Javonte Williams has a really good game, and I do think you'll see like potentially a 20-10, pretty easy, comfortable Denver victory.
Broncos country, let's ride. There you have it, babe. Best DFS and bets for tonight's Showdown contest. Now you just got to go over here. You got to go to DraftKings right now. You got to enter the Millie Maker for tonight. $15 to get in. Get your lineup in now. Listen to Jeff Ulrich or don't. It's completely up to you. Get in there now. We'll be back with some PGA picks as the season begins after a lengthy 2-week break with Jeff and Colin. All right, the new PGA Tour season begins this week. Thankfully, that should be among the few remaining times we need to actually type that sentence in the middle of September. That's Max Homa on your screen. He's the defending champ of this week's Fortinet, don't call me Fortnite Championship. Yeah, the tour is going to go to a January to August slate starting in 2024. Homa is coming off a career year. He's the favorite this week. He's the king of the Jacksonville Airport Chili's. DK Nation's Colin Sherwin, DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich here for some PGA Tour pin placement. So we're picking the finishing positions for each golfer at the Fortinet. So, Colin, I'll start with you. It really is only this 2-week break before between the end of last season and then the start of this year. Usually between seasons, there's a lot more time than that. We don't really talk momentum, but I mean, is that something like you take recent form into play since there really isn't an off season here when it comes to maybe betting a lot of these guys?
Well, a lot of these guys haven't really had a recent form to have because these aren't the guys that were necessarily going over and playing the BMW PGA over in Europe this week. This is a much, let's say, reduced field. It's a lot of guys that just got their cards. Some Q school, well, not Q school anymore, but Korn Ferry Tour guys that are super excited to be here and just want to get out and tour and get as many points as possible. It's not the strongest field this week. Max Homa is actually going to be one of the few players. I think he's the only American, actually. There's going to be some of the international players that's going to actually play this event and then go play the President's Cup next week. So he's somebody to keep an eye on. I mean, how focused could it be? He's won this event last year, but then is he already thinking about his first international match play tournament as well? So tough one to handicap. Quite frankly, I'm going to go down the board and find some guys, but I'm going to go strictly off the stats this week and not nearly use as much momentum as my handicapping as I normally would.
Yeah, Jeff, what's the approach this week? What's your approach?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird mix. Like, you got a bunch of guys coming in off breaks, and we've seen players come in off breaks. Brendan Steele did it like 2 years in a row here. It took like 3 weeks off, just came in and won. And even guys like Cameron Champ kind of had a break, like Stuart Sink. But we've, there's a bunch of guys who were playing the Korn Ferry Tour Championships, like basically 2 weeks ago, and into the Korn Ferry Tour playoffs. These guys are like, they're kind of in form. Like, they might just be hitting their stride. We saw that happen a few years back. I think it was like 6 years now ago. Emiliano Grillo won at this course and event, and he was just coming off a really good Korn Ferry kind of playoffs. So it can happen. There's a really interesting mix of players in this one. I kind of like this event. It's a nice little course. They can score, but it's very focused off the tee as well. So I would be looking at obviously players who were playing in those Korn Ferry Tour events, but not writing off all the veterans either, just because they took a couple-week break. A lot of these guys might be undervalued just because we haven't seen them for a few weeks.
Yeah, a lot of these guys we saw in playoff events. Homa, again, won this event last year. He's the favorite this week. Where do you think he finishes, Jeff? Pin placement.
Yeah, I mean, like, Homa is it's actually like a little bit jarring to see Max Homa finally get some respect and get be the favorite in a field like this. I mean, he's got quite a bit shorter odds than Hideki Matsuyama, but that unfortunately also means I'm not going to bet Max Homa this week. And if you look at what Homa was doing before the end of the year, like, his driver wasn't quite as consistent as it was, towards the front half of the year when he obviously won this event last fall, and then won again in May. So that worries me a little bit. He just hasn't looked as sort of all around good. He was really, he obviously grinded his way to the top 5 of the Tour Championship, which is great. But I'm not necessarily gonna dive in here on plus 1,000. I'm gonna peg him for like a top 25. We'll say T20. Obviously, he's got the President's Cup to look forward to next week too. I think that's a big factor. Max Homa, his first international event. His focus is there. Like, it really is. He's probably here more as just a thank you to the organizers and obviously getting a win. I think if he really chose, he probably wouldn't be playing this event, but I think he'll put in some good competitive practice. We'll say T28.
Okay, Colin, Max Homa's proven he can win. His next challenge is defending those titles. Where does he finish this week?
Yeah, T28. You know what? We'll do the prices right. I'll go T27 just to pip here. We'll go prices right rules. I think if Homa had won this event last year, I don't think he'd be playing it this year. This is one of the good guys on the PGA Tour who really shows a lot of respect to the game and to the tournaments and to the tour itself. I think if he had his druthers, he'd be probably getting ready for next week at Quail Hollow. But that's just sort of not what he's doing right now. Now, there are going to be a few international guys that are going to be in this as well. Hideki Matsuyama, Corey Connors, our fellow Canadian, Taylor Pendrith, Cam Davis. They're all going to play this week as well. But mentally, are they going to be here, or are they going to be thinking about the much larger event next week? I just think it's tough to probably put yourself in a mental state to play as your best golf right now. If you're thinking about next week as well. So these are guys I'm going to probably be fading, and I'm going to be going down the board and trying to find some of these guys from the other tours, the Corn Ferry guys that have promoted, because they're going to be really excited to be there.
I mean, Thigala, Colin, he made it to the Tour Championship. His odds opened at 3,500. He's already been bet down to plus 2,800 now. Where do you think he finishes?
Yeah, I think he's a top 10 type of guy this week.
Okay.
He's definitely, as a setup for this course, it seems to set up well for him and how he plays the game. This is a tough spot. Look, I think this is one of the toughest ones to handicap. So going with a guy who's had success and has had a lot of success lately. Now, he didn't play very well in the Tour Championship, but that was 3 weeks ago, and that was against a much, much better field. Against this field, I like his chances. So, give me Thigala. I think there was a top 10 that was plus money.
Yeah, it's plus 330. Plus 330 for top 10.
That looks. I like that number a lot. I think he's definitely a guy who can be in the mix this week and will contend.
Okay, Jeff Ulrich. Plus 330 top 10. You can go plus 700 if you're confident in going top 5.
I'm pretty confident, man. I really like this one for Thigala. It's going to be his third time playing the event. I think you can go bigger. I think you should be targeting like outrights and top 5s on Thigala. Plus 2,800 is fine. This is a little wonky, the Tour Championship. He lost strokes off the tees last couple of events, but you look at his performance throughout the year, like he's a really good bounce back player. Like this is just not a player who walked around the tour moping after a bad performance or two. He just bounced back. He's gained multiple strokes off the tee in both the times he's been here. I think it's a driver, a very important club here this week, but Thigala has shown that he can perform with that club. He gained a bunch of strokes on the POA greens here in 2020, like 7 strokes, and he's actually putted pretty well on that surface. Like when he's playing at the Travelers, it's kind of a similar surface as well. POA greens there. I like that. I think this is a scorer's course too. Like I think Thigala is just going to be a better play at a slightly easier setups. Had a good performance at TPC Sawgrass, which you've got those those shorter par 5s. You've got those shorter par 4s. It's similar what you see here, just in terms of like how the holes are designed. The par 5s here are all really quite simple. I think Thigala is going to be able to take advantage. Give me him for a top 5. He's definitely going to be on my outright card as well.
All right, guys, I believe we have about a minute and a half to go in the show. Let's wrap up with, Jeff, your thoughts on Hideki, another dude who's headlining this field, another dude who will be in action next week's President's Cup at Quail Hollow as well. Where do you think he finishes?
You look at Hideki's number at plus 1,600, and like it's fine. I mean, it's probably bettable, like in this field. I mean, I think he's the class of the field, but with the President's Cup next week, just with how inconsistent he was to kind of end the year too, I'm not going to take it. I understand anyone who would take it. I'd probably look to go down the board. I already mentioned Thigala. I like taking shots with guys like Wyndham Clark as well. So Hideki probably not going to make my card, but I expect a solid performance.
All right, is he going to make your card, Colin? Tell me where you think he finishes.
Let's put him T4.
Okay.
I think he's going to be right there, but not necessarily the winner this week. Although, he did win twice last year, and I think, he's playing not his best golf right now. Certainly off the Tour Championship where he played really well. But prior to that, he had a couple of missed cuts and withdrawals. So things like that, just a little too much. I need to see a little bit more out of him before I make him bettable.
Okay.
I know we're short on time here. The Corn Ferry Tour champions, 60-1 this week, at Justin Sue. That seems like a bettable number to me. Yep. So give me all the Justin Sues, top 5s, top 10s. That guy is really good. And he's going to get his first shot on the PGA Tour, and I'm sure he's going to be overwhelmed. But when you've got that kind of raw talent and you're that good and you've shown it that long, he's the kind of guy that I'm going to be looking at this week.
All right, and if you think T4 for Hideki, you can get plus 400 on DK Sportsbook right now for a top 5 finish for the former Masters champion. That's our show, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us today on this Monday. Do not forget to get inside the Monday Night Football Millie Maker with the Broncos at the Seahawks. Just $15 to enter the slate tonight at 5 o'clock. And I'll see everyone back here live in studio tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Time.